No one in the courtroom took her seriously from the moment she stepped inside. Not the bailiff, not the spectators, and certainly not the officer on the witness stand, who was already slouched, as if this were just another tedious shift in a long week. But Zara Ellison did not care. She pushed open the heavy courtroom door just before 9 in the morning. Her sneakers made a soft sound against the polished floor. She was not late. She arrived early, just enough to enter without rushing and still make a statement. Converse sneakers, charcoal pants bought from a resale app, a faded navy blazer with the sleeves rolled to her elbows. Her box braids were gathered into a low bun, neat but casual. No makeup, no jewelry, no attempt to look older than her 19 years. She carried a thick folder under one arm, no laptop, no flashy briefcase. "The court is in session," the bailiff announced. Judge Whitaker, silver-bearded and traditional in style, sat a little straighter on the bench as Zara passed the bar. She took her place at the defense table without a word, opened her folder, and turned to a tab labeled Derek Vance. The opposing lawyer looked confused. Miss, that table is for the attorneys." "I am the attorney," she answered without looking up. A pause. "Wait, you're the one handling the cross-examination today?" Zara lifted her gaze for the first time. Calm eyes, no attitude, only facts. "Yes," he studied her again, unsure whether to laugh or worry. Before he could respond, a voice from the witness stand cut through the silence. "This must be some kind of student program," said Officer Derek Vance, a white man in his 40s, arms crossed, the kind who wore mirrored sunglasses even on cloudy days. He chuckled and leaned toward the court officer beside him, whispering loud enough for everyone to hear. "What is this, a debate club?" A few scattered laughs rippled through the benches. Zara did not blink. She clicked her pen once, wrote a note in her folder, and waited. "Proceed," said Judge Whitaker, clearly uncertain whether this was a joke or some kind of TikTok legal stunt. But Zara stood. Her voice did not waver. She made no effort to sound deeper or older than she was. "Your Honor," she said, "the defense is ready to proceed with cross-examination." A few eyebrows rose. Officer Vance leaned back again, but this time he narrowed his eyes as if he sensed the young woman might have something up her sleeve. Zara walked toward the witness stand without hurry, without stiffness, only steady confidence, as though she had done this 100 times. In truth, it was only her 3rd time in open court. "Officer Vance," she began, "you have been on the force. How long?" He smiled with self-assurance. 23 years. "Perfect," she said, glancing at her notes. "That means you are familiar with standard protocol during routine traffic stops, correct?" He raised an eyebrow. "Obviously, because I would like to review one in particular," she continued. "The one involving my client that afternoon near Parker Road. The driver you stopped who, according to you, acted nervous and argumentative." The room shifted. People sat up straighter. Officer Vance adjusted his collar as though preparing for a workout. "You mean the guy who ran a stop sign and got confrontational?" he asked. Zara nodded. "Yes, the man you detained that afternoon near Parker Road and Bunker Hill. The one you described as nervous and argumentative." Officer Vance smiled again, this time with arrogance. "Yeah, that's the one." Zara paused and looked him directly in the eyes. "You had your body camera activated during that stop. Of course, the video was turned over as part of the case file, correct?" "Yes." Zara turned to Judge Whitaker. "Your Honor, with your permission, I will reference the officer's body camera footage in my questions." The judge nodded slowly. "Proceed." Officer Vance shifted again, but not from discomfort. Not yet. He still believed this would end quickly. Something in the way Zara turned the next page of her folder, however, made the entire room lean forward. Officer Vance was about to realize he was no longer the sharpest person in the room. The courtroom was not full, yet it felt crowded. People began to pay attention instead of drifting. Phones were put away. Even the opposing lawyer leaned back and crossed his arms, as though watching a film he had not expected to enjoy. Zara stood at the podium, scanning her notes, not to waste time, but because time mattered. "Officer Vance," she said, "you stated in your report that the driver failed to stop at a stop sign. You remember writing that?" "Yes. And the stop sign in question is at the corner of Parker and Bunker Hill, correct?" "Yes. You mentioned you were parked facing east on Parker Road when you observed the alleged violation." "That's right." Zara nodded, wrote briefly, then turned a page. "You also stated that the intersection was clear when you initiated the stop. No obstructions, clear view, light traffic." "Correct." She stepped aside slightly and held up a printout. "This is a still from your own body camera footage, time-stamped that afternoon. It shows your vehicle facing east with 2 SUVs partially blocking the stop sign at Bunker Hill. Can you confirm that?" Officer Vance leaned forward. "Yeah, maybe there were 2 cars there." "No, maybe," Zara replied. "There were, and from that angle you could not clearly see whether my client came to a complete stop." He hesitated. "I made the best judgment I could." "That was not my question. Could you see clearly?" "Not completely, no." Zara looked at the judge. "Noted." She turned back to the officer. "Let's move to the audio from the body camera, around the 1-minute 12-second mark. Your words were, and I quote, 'He's nervous, probably on something.' Is that correct?" "Yes." "Did you administer any field sobriety tests?" "No." "Did you request or conduct any drug test?" "No." Zara's voice remained even. She did not sound surprised. "Then on what basis did you determine he was probably on something?" Officer Vance shrugged. "He was fidgety." Looking around. "Did he ever raise his voice?" "No." "Did he threaten you?" "No." "Did he refuse to show identification?" "No." Zara let the silence stretch. "So your conclusion was based solely on the fact that he appeared fidgety." Officer Vance began to shift in his seat. "Look, I've been doing this a long time. My client was detained, searched, and cited, based on my impression." The room stayed silent. Officer Vance opened his mouth, but no words came quickly enough. Zara continued. "Your report also stated you observed a bag under the passenger seat and suspected contraband." "Correct. But the video shows you asked what was in the bag without ever shining a flashlight or bending down to look. You claimed you saw something dark down there, a shadow. You assumed it was a bag, yet you wrote that you observed it." "Maybe I was mistaken." Zara left the phrase hanging. "Maybe you were mistaken." She walked slowly back to the defense table, calm and unhurried, as though she could afford to take her time. The prosecutor shuffled papers, but no one was listening. Zara looked up again. "Officer Vance, in your 23 years on the force, have you ever been formally disciplined for misconduct?" The room tensed. His jaw worked, but again too slowly. "Yes, once. Years earlier." "For what?" He glanced at the prosecutor for help. The judge spoke before either could respond. "Answer the question, officer." Officer Vance exhaled. "Complaints regarding excessive use of force. They were dismissed." "Thank you," Zara said, her voice still steady. She looked toward her folder, and then at the gallery. The energy in the room was shifting. People leaned in as though they did not want to miss what came next. No one had expected her to use the officer's own report to show that he had not only exaggerated, but had violated department policy, and that everything had been recorded. Officer Vance was no longer smiling. His arms remained crossed, but now tightly. His jaw was set. His right knee bounced beneath the stand, a small tick that betrayed him for the first time. He no longer looked like the man who had dominated the room. Zara stood firm. She walked to the center of the courtroom as though delivering a master class. No rush, no spectacle. Only facts. "I would like to read a section from the police department's procedures manual, revised the previous year," she said, lifting a printed packet. Section 5.3. Suspicion-based stops. She cleared her throat. All stops based on observed behavior must be clearly articulated and supported by specific actions observed by the officer at the scene. Subjective feelings or hunches are not grounds for initiating a search. She lowered the packet and fixed her gaze on Officer Vance. You wrote that my client was fidgety, looking around, and appeared nervous. Correct? Correct. None of those are illegal behaviors. No. And you observed no weapon, contraband, or direct threat before initiating the search. No. She turned another page. Yet in the body camera footage that afternoon you said, and I quote, "It's the type. They always act the same when they have something to hide." The room stopped breathing for a moment. The type, Zara repeated, slower this time. That is what you said. Officer Vance shifted again. I meant guys get nervous during stops. Are you certain that is all you meant? She asked calmly. Because moments later you added, like the last kid, jumped like a rabbit when I reached for my belt. Officer Vance said nothing. Zara looked at the judge. Your Honor, we are establishing a pattern here. One not supported by department guidelines, but by assumptions based on profiling and a clear violation of Policy 5.3. The judge nodded slowly. Continue. Zara turned back to the officer. Officer Vance, are you familiar with case number J2045 from recently? Same district. He frowned. Refresh my memory. You stopped another young black man. Similar neighborhood. Similar descriptions in your report. Nervous. Looking around, appeared to have something to hide. She held up 2 documents. The language is nearly identical. He did not respond. You stopped that young man. Yes. Contraband was found? No. A complaint was filed? Yes, and it was dismissed. No. The room grew very still again. Zara lowered her eyes to her notes, then raised them. Is it your habit to repeat similar descriptions across different incidents when the behavior is not illegal and no violation occurred? I don't know, he muttered. Zara stepped back. You don't know. Officer Vance took a deep breath. Maybe I rely on pattern recognition. Zara tilted her head. That is not what the department calls it. He raised his voice slightly. Look, sometimes you get a feeling about who's hiding something. There it was. She waited for the room to settle. I believe we have already covered that. She said plainly. Your department's policy does not accept feelings as grounds for a search. He said nothing. Zara turned to the judge. Your Honor, it is clear the stop lacked legal foundation. The officer not only misrepresented his line of sight, but also used subjective language without supporting behavior. This is not about being a veteran on the force. This is about accountability. Judge Whitaker nodded, though his expression revealed nothing. Zara returned to the defense table and sat. No one applauded. None was needed. The silence said everything. Officer Vance stared at her now without smiles, without side comments. Only the certainty that she had caught him in every trap, using nothing but his own words, department policy, and the recordings. But what truly shook the room was not the contradictions. It was what Zara did next with a single question, and how that sentence changed everything about the case. Zara did not need to raise her voice. She did not even stand again. She simply remained seated, scanning one final page of her folder, then asked the question that froze the entire courtroom. Officer Vance, she said quietly. Did you know my client is a mathematics teacher at Booker Middle School? His head jerked back slightly. No, I didn't ask. Did you ask where he was coming from or where he was going? No, it didn't seem relevant. Zara let the idea hang for a few seconds. So, to be clear, the stop, the search, and the citation were based on an incomplete stop you could not clearly see, a bag you never identified, and a tick you assumed meant he was hiding something. All without asking him a single question about where he was coming from or whom he was visiting. Officer Vance shifted. It's not exactly like that. But it is, she said, her tone soft yet firm. You saw a young black man in a hoodie driving a used Camry and decided his story for him. He said nothing. You did not ask. You did not wonder. You did not consider that perhaps this man had spent a long day teaching sixth graders how to convert fractions. You thought he fit the type, and that was all you needed. She turned to the judge once more. I am not asking for sympathy. I am asking for truth. This case is not about a stop sign. It is about loose, harmful assumptions. The judge did not respond. He did not need to. Zara finally stood and addressed the gallery. Every inch of this courtroom operates on rules, legal procedures, evidence, debates, and discipline. How is it possible that a man in uniform can discard all of that on a hunch and expect the rest of us not to notice? No one spoke. She turned to Officer Vance one last time. You have done this work for 23 years, but what frightens me most is how certain you were that no one would question the way you wrote that report. How certain you were that no one would hold you to the standards of your own department. Judge Whitaker cleared his throat. Miss Ellison has made her point clear. She nodded briefly. No further questions, Your Honor. Officer Vance stared straight ahead. His hands now gripped the edge of the stand. There was no mocking smile, no laughter, only silence. Zara returned to her seat. Her co-counsel leaned toward her and whispered, That was lethal. She did not smile. Instead, she answered quietly, It was time. Behind them in the gallery, someone let out a low whistle. The prosecutor attempted redirect, but managed only a few questions before the judge shut it down. Moving to closing arguments, said Judge Whitaker. His tone was flat, but his eyes said everything. As the court prepared to conclude, the energy in the room had already shifted, because everyone knew Zara had not merely dismantled a case. She had exposed a system with precision, without fanfare, and completely. Closing arguments were supposed to be the dramatic part, yet Zara had already done the damage, not with speeches or outrage, but with evidence. Her closing was not fireworks. It was focus. She rose slowly, took a sip of water, and looked directly at the jury. When you watched that body camera footage, she said, did you see a threat? You saw a teacher driving home. You saw a man cooperating. You did not see a search warrant or probable cause. You saw words that tried to sound professional, but crumbled under pressure. She let that settle. Now, let's talk about what you did not see, she continued. You did not see a man resisting. You did not see a traffic violation. No, you saw signs of criminal behavior. All the officer needed was a hunch. Zara paused, then walked slowly toward the jury. Hunches are not evidence. She looked at Officer Vance, then back at the jury. Hunches do not give permission to rewrite facts. They do not justify skipping questions, protocols, or basic respect. She turned briefly toward the judge, then the gallery. My client was profiled, humiliated, and cited because someone could not be bothered to ask who he was before deciding what he was. And the most disturbing part? If we were not here today, if we did not have video, policy, records, and this platform, none of this would matter. It would simply be another case closed with a fine and no explanation. She returned to the defense table. This case is not about winning. It is about telling the truth and making sure someone finally listens. She sat. The prosecutor followed. His argument was brief and dry. Nothing landed. The words floated and vanished before reaching the jury. Zara did not even look at him. Her client, Darius Cole, turned to her and whispered, Do you think we have a chance? Zara met his eyes. They heard you, she said. That is more than most people get. The jury did not take long. After a brief deliberation, they returned. All four stood. We find the defendant not guilty on all charges. A wave moved through the room. Some gasped. Others sat frozen. Officer Vance did not move. He stared straight ahead, as though the moment had not fully landed. The judge spoke again. Charges are dismissed. Court is adjourned. Zara shook Darius's hand, then touched his shoulder. He simply stood there blinking. "Thank you," he said. Voice breaking. "I thought this was going to bury me." Zara smiled for the first time that day. "You are standing. That means they lost." She packed her folder calmly, without hurry, without celebration. Only a deep breath and a moment of silence. People were already whispering as she walked down the aisle about her age, her way of speaking, her calm. No one made jokes anymore, not even Officer Vance. He stood at the back of the courtroom with his hands on his hips, watching her leave, as though unsure whether he should be angry or relieved. Zara pushed open the heavy door and stepped into the sunlight. Outside, a small group of local journalists waited. One stepped forward. "Miss Ellison." "Zara, what does it feel like to win a case like this at your age?" Zara did not even pause. "I am not here to feel good," she said. "I am here to do what is right." The reporter stammered, trying to form a better question. Zara kept walking. What she did not yet know was that video of her closing argument had already reached social media, and by evening the entire country would know her name. The clip spread rapidly, reaching hundreds of thousands of views by evening. Someone in the gallery had recorded her final argument. The caption was simple. "She is 19. He has been a police officer for 23 years. Guess who came prepared?" The replies came quickly. "I have never seen someone dismantle a case like that without raising their voice. This is what real power in the courtroom looks like. Who is she? We need her running for district attorney in 10 years. In a cafe 2 blocks from the courthouse, Zara sat across from Darius Cole, who still held his coffee untouched. His hands would not stop shaking, not from fear, but because the adrenaline had not fully left his system. "I thought they were going to find some way to twist it," he said. "I have never seen someone handle police like that, not even veteran lawyers." Zara stirred her tea slowly. "It is not about handling them. It is about cornering them with their own words." Darius laughed, more from relief than amusement. "You have done this before." "Only twice in person," she said. "The rest were Zoom consultations." He blinked. "That is crazy." She shrugged. "I read fast." Just then, her phone vibrated again. More notifications. Her name was already trending across Texas. Someone had posted an edited clip comparing her to the prosecutor, one sounding like a robot, the other like a blade. She silenced her phone. "I don't care about going viral," she said quietly. "I care about what happens next." Darius leaned back. "And what happens next?" Zara looked him straight in the eyes. "Nothing. And that is the problem. That officer goes back to work. The department says it was a misunderstanding. People move on to the next case." Darius nodded slowly. "Then why keep doing it?" Zara leaned forward. "Because every time I win one of these cases, it becomes harder for the next officer to lie and easier for the next person to defend themselves." Outside, more cameras were beginning to gather. The court's press team had already requested a statement from her. She declined. She had nothing more to say, at least not to them. That night, her inbox filled with requests, podcasts, interviews, school boards asking her to speak. But Zara did not respond immediately. She did not want to be famous. She wanted people to do their jobs properly and stop expecting her to fix what they kept breaking. Across the city, Officer Vance sat in a bar in silence, watching a clip of himself on someone else's phone screen. "She burned you in court today, huh?" the bartender asked, half laughing. Officer Vance did not answer. He simply finished his drink and left a tip. The next morning, the Plano Police Department issued a statement. "We take all public concerns seriously and will conduct a formal review of the incident involving Officer Vance. We remain committed to community accountability and professional conduct." Zara read the statement on her phone while sitting in her room. She shook her head and murmured, "Copy and paste." Her mother peeked through the doorway. "Are you okay?" she asked. Zara smiled. "Yes." "Just thinking. You are all over the news," her mother said, proud and protective at once. "I saw your clip on Facebook. Even Aunt Rel's group chat is going crazy." Zara laughed softly. "It is a strange day." Her mother leaned against the doorframe. "Do you want dinner?" "Maybe later." Alone again, Zara opened her folder and turned to a blank page. She titled it, "Future Cases, What We Lost Today." But the truth was that even as she tried to move forward, something had changed. Not only in the courtroom, but in the eyes of everyone who had once doubted whether she belonged there from the very beginning. Monday morning arrived quickly. The courthouse buzzed early, not from drama but from attention. People wanted to see her, the girl in the oversized blazer and sneakers, who had left a 23-year veteran officer on the floor as though she had done it 100 times. But Zara was not there. She was in her apartment near the University of Texas at Dallas, sitting on her small gray couch, eating cereal from a mug and scanning her handwritten notes. No music, no television, only the sound of her spoon against the ceramic. Her phone vibrated again. Another message. "Saw the video. That was brutal. I owe you one." It was from a young man she had helped 2 months earlier, wrongfully arrested for fitting a description. The case never reached trial, but Zara reviewed the report and had it dismissed in less than a week. She never asked for thanks, only facts. Her inbox held numerous unread messages, some from reporters, some from clients, some from high school girls saying she had given them hope. She opened one. It was from a woman in yellow, a mother. "My daughter wants to go to law school now. She watched your closing argument several times. She told me she did not know you could speak like that in court. Thank you." Zara closed the email and sat still for a minute. It was not about praise. It never had been. But she knew that feeling. Seeing someone who looked like you, doing something people told you was not for you. She picked up her phone and finally replied to a reporter who had asked how winning felt. "Winning," she wrote, "does not feel like a victory until the system stops giving officers like Vance the benefit of the doubt and starts giving people like Darius the benefit of the truth." She pressed send. Across the city at department headquarters, Officer Vance's body camera footage was under official review. It was no longer just about one case. It was his language, his patterns, his history. Suddenly, every detail he thought no one would care about was being examined line by line. By Friday, he was placed on administrative leave, without a press conference, without applause, only a quiet exit. Meanwhile, Zara stood in a classroom with high school juniors in a legal youth program in Arlington, leading a workshop called "What They Do Not Teach You in Law School." She wore a t-shirt, jeans, and clean white sneakers. "You are going to walk into rooms where people think you do not belong," she told them. "Do not waste time proving them wrong. Prove to yourselves that you are right." A student raised her hand. "How do you stay calm when they laugh at you?" Zara smiled. "They laugh when they feel safe. I do not give them that." The class fell silent. Then a boy whispered, "That is cold." Zara smiled wider. "That is justice, just dressed differently." Later that night, already home, she took a moment to breathe. She looked out the window at the blinking lights on the campus buildings. She did not want fame. She wanted change. But if people were going to keep watching, she would give them something real to see. No theater, no slogans, only the truth, and a hard rule she had already written in permanent ink. Never underestimate the person in the room who has something to prove and nothing to lose. Sometimes the people who laugh at you are simply afraid of what you already know. You do not need to shout. You only need to be prepared and let the truth do the rest. If this story moved you, share it. Tell it. Challenge what is normal, because silence never changed anything. But courage backed by knowledge, that is where justice begins.